Welcome back to your weekly BryceBuildsCars video, and in last week's video, I actually screwed something up. After our last pass, I told you guys that our air temp was down to 155, intake air temp that is. Well, I was actually wrong. I watched the footage back and watched the playback again, and it was actually 165 degrees. So we have an intake air temperature issue with this thing. If we're gonna go over 170 on a moderate weather day, on a hot weather day, we're gonna hit 180 and blow this thing up. So what we have to do is try to get the intake air temperatures down a little bit. Plus, there's gonna be some stuff on the Pro Stock car coming as well, probably in this video, some minor things that we're working on. But the big project is getting an intercooler on the Slow Quest. So I started doing some research and I found on Amazon for 200 bucks, this right here. We have got a Mishimoto intercooler that is supposed to be rated for 800 horsepower. Hopefully, let's open this. But first, let me show you the idea. The reason we picked the intercooler that we did and not something larger rated for more horsepower is because of size. We're not working with a ton of room. It has to fit here and have somewhere for the transmission cooler to go. We're not working with a ton of space, so we went with something small. Let's just open it and check it out. I haven't opened this yet. There we go. Oh, baby. Look at this. Oh, my God. This is my first ever intercooler. I've never owned an intercooler before. I've never needed one. Look at this. So, the reason we picked this unit over the other ones is the width. So, it's still about a foot tall. It's a 3-inch core intercooler, but it's the width. Every other intercooler comes out to about 31 inches wide. This one's like 25, I think. So it should fit right. Oh, it's like the perfect size. Holy crap. Let me get this out of the bag so we get a better look at this. Hang on. Oh, check that out. Oh, wow. Look at that. Let me know in the comments too. Do we place it with the Mishimoto M sticking out of the front? Or do we hide the Mishimoto M and make it look plain? Tell me in the comments how we should do this. Check this out though. This is why we got this. It's a little heavier than I thought it was gonna be. Because if you can eye it up right there. It literally fits perfectly. It is like the exact width that we need. Gonna be hard to hide the transmission cooler, but we'll figure that out. But this should work great. So this thing needs to be put on the car. And we have to change a few other things that I'll show you right now. So obviously the transmission cooler can't stay here. This has to get moved. But we have to reroute pretty much everything in the front. So we came up with a plan on how we're gonna do this. The charge side air is going to come out and down where our old intake was. We're gonna open this hole up, try to make a new intake that comes down out here, and the charge side coming out to the same hole to come out down here for fresh air. And then the tube's gonna come out here to meet the side of the intercooler here. The intercooler is gonna be positioned right here. Then it's gonna come across the intercooler, then come out and go through here. We'll cut a hole open here like we have it cut on the other side. Then it's gonna come out here, come across the top of the intercooler, and then meet to our blow off here, and then go into our hat. So it's gonna come out, down, across, back through, and up. It actually should work out pretty good. Our hood's gonna have to get destroyed more, but it is what it is. We also have to do some work to our front bumper. So you can see here in this magnet from Rock Auto, this is Mikey Sorrell, shout out to MKS Motorsport. This is his Conquest with, I believe, a 1JZ swap. You can see this hole they did in the front. They cut the hole open in the front all the way up to almost the center point of where the, whether they are running lights, fog lights are, whatever, to the center point to get better airflow in here and clear up some space. We're gonna have to do the same thing to the front of this car. Otherwise, the intercooler is not gonna be able to fit. But that's the general plan, is to get this Mishimoto intercooler onto the front, pipe it the way that I showed you, relocate the transcooler, cut the front bumper open. We already did a bunch of stuff in terms of planning to try to figure out what parts we need to buy to get the right stuff. Only thing we don't have figured out is where we're gonna mount the overflow for the coolant. That's it. Otherwise, we kind of got the rest of this figured out. It's just kind of getting it done. Now that the parts are here, let's get to work. So we got the air dam off. My dad did this while I was gone because it was totally just stuck on and rusted on. So now we got a better look at what this is supposed to look like, and we can modify this bumper as need be. And then the air dam's gonna have to get modified heavily too. And in the process, he did some accidental weight reduction. This is, what'd you say, it's just like 5 pounds?
It feels like 4 or 5 pounds.
4 or 5 pounds of rust fell out of the bumper. So Check that out. Might pick up a 10th right there. Also, I want to show you every single bolt that we took out, besides this one, which is still in here, broke off in the process. Not one bolt survived this. Every bolt was rusted and broke off. So we're just working on mock-up stuff, and you can see the intercooler is in here right now. We've kind of got it just held up by a ratchet strap just in there. And you can see that our holes don't line up for our mounting for the bumper, and we are already hitting the intercooler. So we're going to have to notch this pretty much as far back as you possibly can to give us more room for the transmission cooler as well. And we got to cut this up and open here. So first things first is to just start cutting more stuff up. Oh, hey, look at that. There you go. That's a big chunk of rusty metal. That metal back there, oh yeah. It's got a whole layer of metal lining the back. So we can cut out as much as we need out of this thing. It's got a whole layer of metal behind it. So this is actually pretty good. And that's the piece of metal back here isn't rusty at all. So you can see with all the cutting that we did, there is now plenty of space for the intercooler. Let me grab it quick and I'll show you. And kind of slide it up to where it's supposed to be. You can see there is a ton of space. It has to space out about a ½ an inch to get the ends of these to actually go out from the radiator. So it has to come out pretty much until it's almost touching the cut that we made in the bumper. So before we can really do anything, we got to figure out where the transcooler is going to go now. Well, this is kind of a stupid idea and something that probably should never be done. However, the motor we have in this car is something that should never exist in the first place. So not operating under ideal conditions to begin with, we are going to get a larger transmission cooler to try to make this have a better chance of working. They make a version of this that just adds 7 rows, and it's about, I think it's like 7, 8 inches longer. It's about this size. And we are actually going to sandwich the transmission cooler against the radiator and put the intercooler on the front of it. And we should have enough space to do all of this. This is not ideal. I want to make it very clear in the video, not the ideal setup for this. However, we're not working under ideal conditions, so we're going to make do with what we got. So the next thing we're going to do is get the transmission cooler back in because it's the same thickness as the new one we're buying and it can work for mock-up purposes. Then we're going to throw this bad boy on and try to get this mounted. Once this is mounted, it's just plumbing and it's pretty easy. So we got it all in, got it mocked up, and you can see we got to cut a little bit more material out. It's just too close for us here. And over here, we're actually making contact just barely. So have to get a little bit more material out. So we're going to cut this open a little bit more here and a little bit more here. But it looks like this idea of putting the transmission cooler behind the intercooler is actually going to function. There you go. And she fell right off. So as you can see, I mean, it's in there, but I mean, it's almost touching. There is like, I don't know, you can fit a piece of paper in there. That's about it. It is pretty much almost touching, but it's in and it does fit with this setup. It's really, really sketchy, but it's in there. And remember, we are going to cut this up here. So the entire intercooler should actually be exposed and be able to get fresh air if we leave it all the way down like this. Now, keep in mind, if we leave it all the way down, the center piece of this air dam disappears. So it kind of loses that factory front look with the air dam. We could jack the intercooler up so that we can run the lower piece of the air dam here, but then it's going to get less air. So I would prefer to cut the center piece out to get full airflow to our intercooler and our transmission cooler and our radiator. However, if you guys want to, see it keep the factory look, I could try jacking this thing up a little bit and keeping the lower piece of the air dam. I'd prefer not to, but we can try that. Let me know in the comments if you want to see that. We can give it a go, but I want to cut the air dam open and let this hang loose. Because if it's this tight, we need to get as much airflow in there as we possibly can. That is a pretty tight fit. But look at this car. Intercooler sandwiched to a transmission cooler with the radiator, the fan shroud, with the hoses here. Look at the space, the crank pulley on the bottom, barely clearing inside. I mean, this thing barely fits. The headers barely fit. That's just normal for this car. It doesn't bother me at all. So we're working on replicating what Mikey Sorrell did to his here. And we're noticing that if you kind of poke this, there's actually a metal skin, I think, underneath this. So this entire inside piece that we just worked on saving, I think might actually be able to get cut out to give us even more room, which would make it even more likely that we can bump this thing up higher and save the air dam. I'd rather not. But first, I think the next step is to start with this project of cutting this up and open to match what Mikey Sorrell has got over here on his Conquest. So we've got this all taped up and marked off, and this is kind of where we're going to start with the cut on this and see how it goes. A lot of guys run these really nice aftermarket lower air dam pieces. We don't have one of those. We're trying to use the factory stuff because we're stupid. So this is where we're going to start, and we're going to start hacking this up and cutting this up to make sure that we can have as much room and as much air as possible for the intercooler, radiator, and transcooler. Well, I just got here, and it looks like my dad got a little bit excited and got some stuff done while I wasn't around. So he got this kind of notched up and cut up. Obviously, we'll pretty it up and make it look nice. But, well, it's like what? There's like a foam lining underneath here. Do we just take this out or what? Do we just remove this? What do you think? So it looks like there isn't a piece of metal, and this is actually just literally plastic. Interesting. So we're just going to have some plastic out here floating in the wind, I guess. That's kind of the strategy. We could remove all this foam BS, couldn't we? I don't think it does anything for us. And it also looks like he's mocked up his idea for mounting this, huh? This is what you want to do? Small tube that goes across, a couple of bungs on it. That's your idea?
We get a piece of tubing, that's a piece of bar stock, and we make some bungs that fit the 8mm bolt and bolt it on there. I think that'll also tie this together, get this here and here so there won't be flimsiness in the middle where we're taking everything out of.
Yeah.
We're
going to have to add some support here for sure. I mean, this is... There's not anything there anymore. It's kind of loosey-goosey.
There's a way to do that, so...
Yeah, we'll figure that out. This is kind of the idea that I had, too. Tie this together with a bar and then hang it off the top like this. It'll give us some good structure, too. Yeah, so there's really no strength to this. So we kind of have to strengthen this anyway to make sure this stays together because it's kind of flimsy now.
And you can incorporate your mounting system. That way you can take the battery or take the bumper off and leave everything intact, and only got to take these two bolts out. The intercooler will stay with the bottom mount you're going to do, plus with the hoses on it.
Or we can make it like this so that the intercooler comes out with the bumper.
That'd be kind of hard to do, but
yeah,
okay.
Anything's achievable. We can make it how we want, but this is the general idea, but we have a little bit more doctoring to do on this. However, this is the idea that we were running with. I think we could cut that up a little bit higher. What do you think? Or do you want to leave the cone to the nose? So you want to leave the little nose?
I think the little nose there would be nice to have, because then it has less of a tendency, I think, for the air to catch it and pull it up.
Oh, yeah, I guess what there's no support underneath that could grab it and literally rip the thing open, couldn't it? Let's keep doctoring it up and getting it closer to the final version, I guess, right? And to show you guys, this was also the base of the idea was, look at this. Although it's kind of cut off here, the air will still flow up underneath this lip, and through the airflow, everything gets now. It's pretty much just wide open. So that was also the purpose of doing this. So things should run cooler and better with it like this, just in general. So after some careful consideration, we're going to cut this out, get the rest of this foam out of here because the foam is kind of in the way. So remove all of this stuff to make this open. Then we're going to come up with a way to reinforce the plastic out here in front so it doesn't cave in when we're going, 130 in this car or whatever. So still a lot more cutting and manufacturing to do. That wasn't very fun at all, but all the foam is out. And now as you can see this thing in the middle, I don't know if you can see it on camera too well, but she's twisting and flimsy, and this will definitely need something to support it in the center. However, we've gained the room that we'd like to have. So progress continues. So we're experimenting with raising the intercooler to be able to save the lower piece of the air dam, and you're run out of clearance. We're physically on the corners physically touching the bumper. So unfortunately, I think for this to work, this has to go down and we have to sacrifice the majority of our air dam, which it is what it is. Maybe it'll look good when it's finished. I'm not sure. But obviously, we can't go down the road with this stuff bouncing around like this with it physically touching itself. That's just not going to work. So we're going to lower it back down, and we're going to have to run it that way. This is kind of where we're at, back to where we were before with the original idea. Unfortunately, this has to be this low for everything to clearance and make sense, because you can see, if I can get a good video of it, we're clearing here, but like barely. If this goes up an inch, the corner of this intercooler actually contacts the bumper, and we can't have that going down the road. If it's bouncing and moving, it's going to hit, oh, there it goes. It's going to hit itself and probably wear a hole in the intercooler. So this is really the best we can do, and it's a little bit unfortunate. I was hoping to have the air dam. However, it should still work out okay. It'll be fine. So we got this chromoly tube that's left over from our gas tank that we made. It's a tube we didn't use, and if you look, it's got a bend on the end because we ended up not using this. We doctored it up for something it wasn't used for. Slide this to here, and then there. We cut the bend off, and I think there is like literally barely enough metal, because we got to notch this too, so leave enough room to get it notched, right? You know, there, being conservative. And we cut it right as the bend starts. This is barely long enough to be able to use. Chromoly, it's 1 inch, I think it's 0.98 wall thickness, right? Something like that. 0.95 thick wall. So more than strong enough to support the entire weight of the intercooler where it sits. So we can support the whole intercooler just from above by tying it across to here with this piece of chromoly, and then put something on bottom just to stop it from wanting to flap in the wind. But otherwise, this will be plenty. This should work out actually really nice. So we got the tubing on, and it's in, and it barely just got it to the right length, just enough where you can fill it with wire. Almost made it too short, but not too short where it's an issue, so it'll still work. Next, we're gonna come up with whatever idea we got to get this to connect to here, whether we use an angle bracket or just like some sort of a weld bung or a spacer and weld it to it. That's what's next. Once the whole mock-up is done, all we gotta do is sand this paint off and weld all this down, and we've pretty much got the thing mounted for the most part. So this is our final idea with the mounting here. You can see we're going to roll this forward. This will get welded around here. It'll get welded to here as well to make this as strong and rigid as possible. And then we have tabs, which will weld to the top of this chromoly tube. And we'll not just weld the tabs, we'll weld the spacers, actually butt them up and weld this all the way around. So should be way more than strong enough to support the entire weight of the intercooler and put some more structure back in where we took structure out. So that's going to have to wait, unfortunately, until next week's video, because we're out of time. It is now Sunday and I'm on my way home. So that's all we got to do. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. You can come along with us during the process of getting this done and seeing how difficult it is and how you do things one way and see it doesn't work and you redo it a different way, and cutting foam out, all this weird 80s, Mitsubishi stuff we have to run into, but having a lot of fun with it. Nonetheless, it should be a great final product when it's done. Hopefully in next week's video, we get to a point of where all we have to do is plumb it and make some tubing. So if you haven't already, like and subscribe right now. Put some comments in the video, ask you some questions, answer my questions in the comments I asked you, and make sure you turn the notifications on so you see next week's video, and I'll see you guys next week. But until then, go away.